霍克斯先生，你好，很高兴和你今天晚上能够一起进行对话交流。在这次对话前呢，我们几位都认真看了这部影片。大伙呢共同的一个感受，它呢就是采用了一种更为复杂、非线性的叙事结构。欧克斯先生呢在谈这个当时的影片初剪呢是3个半小时的长度，后来开始做了我们的解构的工作，最终完成版是2个小时20多分钟。这个过程是非常有挑战性的，充满想象力的。取舍掉的主要是些什么内容？为何做出这样的取舍？很想知道这个过程经历了你怎么样的哲学思考，这是我的第一个问题。
First, I would like to say that yes, it was and it is our intention with director Yorgos Mavropsaridis not to edit in the conventional continuity style of editing. I remember when we started doing Dogtooth, I got the script one day before shooting started, and all the scenes he had changed the order of the scenes, not in the sense to tell me this is the new order, no, but in the sense that we will find the order during the editing process. And usually what it is that Lanthimos, and because it's his personal language, audiovisual language, doesn't want to do a descriptive film to present a story. It's more like an essay. It's about something. It's about love. It's about an estrangement. It's about loss, existential things. So I do believe they do need a different approach than the conventional, let's say, Hollywood style editing. And another thing to note is that we both believe, me and Mr. Lanthimos, in the transformative aspect of filmmaking, not just watching a film to entertain the viewer, but to put the viewer in a kind of conscious re-examining of his beliefs or ideas. And this is obvious for all of our films. Basically, the existential themes that interest him are, of course, the position of the individual in society and how does he cope with the difficulties or the norms of each society. In that sense, the viewer plays a very important role in the viewing of the film, because the film, in our mind, doesn't exist on the screen. It exists in the communication between what the code of the director gives us and how we interpret it with our own prejudices, with our own philosophical thinking, with our own attitudes. So it's very important for me as an editor to have a viewer opposite all the time and have a discourse with him all the time, to give some codes, question his beliefs about certain things, maybe annoying him in the sense that we want the viewer to be consciously a participant in the film. So that's why some of the things that are missing. An essay in the sense that it doesn't explain how things are, doesn't present a thesis. No, it just gives some questions to the viewer to answer with his own beliefs or his own understanding of the film. In this sense, what we had to attack, of course, from the beginning was the continuity style of editing, which presents a kind of objective reality somehow, with the establishing shot, with the usual cuts that try to hide the connection of the shots, and to go towards a more Eisensteinian kind of editing, disconnected, discontinuous, because that's what I believe our mind works. It's not a continuous thing. It's a fake reality, but the most important is the reality inside of us and how we form this reality. So Mr. Lanthimos would not like to represent a reality, but to create a new reality with the same material, of course, but adding in this equation the viewer's understanding or the viewer's attention or the viewer's beliefs about something, and either basically contradict them or give him a different option to think about. So in that sense, another distinctive thing about the way Mr. Lanthimos works is that during shooting, he respects definitely the time and space continuity. He doesn't change it during the shooting. We have to do that in the edit. Why? Because he wants his actors to feel free in a real environment. He never cuts like, for example, in the setup of a scene, the actor would say all the lines of the scene, even if it's in long shot or a close-up or anything. So we have all the continuity we need for the actor to play, and also the ideas that come in the edit afterwards, because yes, we do construct the film as the script, which is very linear in the beginning, but then there comes my discussion about deconstructing, making it more familiar with this new idea of watching, not as a representation of reality, but forming this reality together with the viewer. I don't think Poor Things is our most deconstructed film. It's the most linear film we have ever done because it's episodic. We had to follow the order of, the black and white section when she's in this Gothic environment. And when she leaves, of course, it's the Lisbon situation. And then we had to go to the boat, and from the boat to France, and then come back to London. So I don't think it would be a good example of how we deconstruct. In Poor Things, that the changes in the structure were not so big. Like, for example, we did start with the sort of the woman committing suicide from the back. So the reason was just to create a question mark. Who is that woman? And then, the Poor Things come, the title comes, and then we leave some space before we reveal the situation. But we had other techniques in Poor Things, in the question that will answer how we managed to take out about 1.5 hours from the film. This technique we have developed from our early film, from Dogtooth and later on. I call it a montage sequence or montage sequence, which it does like that. We have a number of scenes, and we feel sometimes, or the director feels, that the pace of the film is very slow, and we need to go faster to the situation. That might be a reason. Another reason might be that he doesn't like a scene particularly that is done. He doesn't like it so well, so we need to change something. So the way to go over this problem and also to eliminate some unneeded time is to combine these scenes in a montage sequence, and that gives you a lot of opportunity not only to take out time from the film, to take out details that are not necessary, but also to create very interesting juxtapositions between something like, for example, in Poor Things, we had this sequence in the dinner table, a very lengthy scene that was her alone in her bedroom, and then the next day, and all these things, if you combine them out of order, of course, we have to change the order of the scene, it can create very interesting juxtapositions. As you might say, why not do it in the script? Why not make this montage sequence in the script? Yes, but I believe the Lanthimos way, it's much better because, as I said before, it allows the actors in the set to behave naturally, not to think about the idea behind the play. They are there themselves. And also, as an editor, I admire this kind of technique because it gives a creative freedom to the procedure of the editing, and it gives you many opportunities together with the material, because you don't know how it's going to be. If you shot it a specific way, you limit yourself. But if you have a lot of opportunities to play with the material, you give yourself and the editing opportunity to be more creative and free, as a matter of fact.
我在自己看可怜的东西》这个电影的时候，我非常非常的觉得它有 剪辑上的精彩之处。因为影片之中使用了大量的鱼眼镜头或者超广角的镜头，所以我想请问您是怎么安排这些镜头在全片中的比例，以及这些镜头出现的时间点有什么内在的逻辑？
In the case of Mr. Lanthimos, it's again allowing for improvisation. We never know when we're going to use them. For example, especially the black and white section, and then sometimes later, all the shots were shot with a 4mm lens or with wide angle or with a normal lens. So there was no way there could be decided beforehand when to use them. And of course, as an editor, I had to find ways not to estrange people so much, because I do know that Lanthimos likes his aesthetics to be different, of course, but for me, there must be an internal logic sometimes in using them so as not to lose the viewer in getting him out of the situation. Specifically, for example, because of course you cannot use them all the time without reason. The first time we used this 4mm lens is after we see the close-up of Godwin Baxter, and I thought it would be a great idea to use that 4mm as his point of view, because after all, he's a scientist and he observes human life objectively. So he puts it in a different perspective. And then when we got to the kitchen situation, the breakfast situation between Godwin Baxter, an old man, and the girl that behaves like a baby, I thought it would be appropriate to establish a situation with a distorted lens going in, this fisheye lens. Or later when Godwin Baxter explains to Max McAndrews the situation, the shots were so distorted because the situation, the narrative was so extraordinary. So we used most of the time, all these shots were the 4mm lens with the distorted close-ups. And also in the end of the scene, if you remember, there was a very nice aesthetically a dissolve between this 4mm lens and the round close-up of her eye. So doing a dissolve between these matte cut is very interesting aesthetically as well. Basically, it comes down to this. Mr. Lanthimos is interested not only in, as I said, not in representing a story, but he's interested in how we tell the story, the way we tell the story, because it does create subconsciously very interesting feelings to the viewer, I believe.
我们了解到可怜的东西中有很多场景是用胶片拍的哈，比如说就是有像那个弗兰肯斯坦这种哥特式的科学怪人题材致敬的黑白影像是用负片拍的，然后呢游轮的那一部分呢是用彩色反转片拍的。我想问一下，就是那个 Yorgos 和那个导演是如何把胶片的各种特性和优点呀，就设计使用到不同的场景中去的？另外呢，您觉得这些场景如果用数字技术来实现的话，它会和胶片有很大的差别吗？
It's not that I made the decisions. As a matter of fact, Lanthimos is very well educated in cinematography. He can do it himself. Before the shooting, we do a lot of tests, lens tests and negative tests. So the decisions for this came before the shooting started. The decision to shoot in black and white, because I was asked this question by some other time if it was desaturated. No, it was shot in black and white with a specific lens and with a specific idea in mind. Also, the reversal, it was not something, he had to go and find it. If you remember, the old reversal was abandoned, but then there's this guy in Germany who can print the color reversal again. So it was done. I do believe the aesthetic decisions, for example, from the black and white to go to the normal negative in Lisbon with this, the exuberance of colors was very conscious. So, we had to, it was our easiest film in the sense that we had to follow one character, her point of view, Bella Baxter's point of view. So how did she feel when she was in Lisbon? of course, very colorful and new ideas to his mind. And then once he became, like, for example, more, she started learning about the war, she started reading about cynicism or stoicism or all these philosophical things. This was done in a reversa film to place a different mood on the film. And as we proceeded in the film, in the end, the negative, the color negative in the return to London was more normal, and she's a more responsible being. But all these decisions were made beforehand, as a matter of fact.
还是想问一下关于这个电影的叙事，因为其实，在这样一个奇幻性质的、寓言性质的电影中啊，它这个电影的情节起伏好像不是这个电影最重要的目标，它还有观点的表达。那我想问一下Yorgos先生，在这样一个细致的电影中，在这样的特质对剪辑工作是不是一个特别重大的挑战？您是怎样应对这个挑战的？
Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's a good challenge in my mind, in the sense that before I met Lanthimos, I was a quite successful editor in Athens. I had done a lot of mainstream films, but I did come to an impasse. I didn't find any satisfaction in working in the mainstream industry, in the sense that I was required to do something like a recipe. So I didn't feel very comfortable in that, and it was in my midlife crisis. And then comes this young director who doesn't want to do the same. He doesn't tell you what to do. He says, okay, we'll find it. We'll have to work, and we have to be present in what we're doing. And it is a big challenge, I understand, and I had to find my way through this world. But in the end, it's like, you're given. I always compare it with playing, for example, traditional Greek music, which is not it's not the Western kind of music, which has very distinctive tones and semitones and ways to do it. It allows you greater freedom to go from one situation to a different one, and it is necessary in this in Lanthimos' world, because his world is a very strange world. It's not very descriptive. It's not very clear what is happening. In one sense, you want to laugh, but at the same time, you understand the tragedy behind it. So the combination of these different moods is always interesting. I'm not saying that, we're always following the same recipe, because I do believe each of his films needs for us to work and find its own specific language. And this language comes from of course, his worldview. He has this worldview about certain situation, about the individual being alone in a society that sometimes is repressing him. He has this strange idea about what it means to love. He has this idea to depict loss. We lose something, or we are replaced by somebody. Very, very basic existential themes. It's not basically about characters doing something because of their character. No, it's about human beings being in the world and facing this unknown situation without having clear ends, without having clear points, as it is the usual Hollywood tradition, for example, of a character. So every time it's a challenge, but I think it's a creative challenge. I like it very much, and I like the way he creates this safe space around us to make this happen.
就是想请问一下，因为中国和希腊都是有着非常厚重的文化沉淀的这种国家，那么请问Yorgos先生，他从传统的希腊文化中有没有什么更多的借鉴到他自己的剪辑的创作中？
Well, of course, I was literally minded when I was younger. I studied drama mainly. I went to the drama school when I was young, and that influenced a lot my work, as a matter of fact. So I do find my understanding of actors and the time, of acting is influenced by that. Of course, great literature, not only from Greece, but from the European tradition mainly. And I studied also, when I was younger, music. I played the violin, and I found it very useful to my understanding of behavior or how to approach the editing. And I love watching Asian films, as a matter of fact, Chinese or Japanese or Korean. I do like the idea of watching a different culture and being influenced by new approaches to life. I do believe in the human diversity. I don't think there's only one way to say things, so that's why I'm interested in many points of view. And that, of course, influences my understanding of letting the viewer decide about many of the things, not to present him with a concrete reality, let's say, so give him space to form his own reality. And lately, my interests are in neuroscience, as a matter of fact, how the brain perceives the world. And I find a lot of interesting connections with how we construct this world to the viewer's mind. It's very similar in a sense, because there is we know now from neuroscience that there's no reality out there. The reality is inside our heads, is inside our mind, and it is influenced by, it is constructed with things that we do know don't exist, as a matter of fact. The colors we see are limits to what we can see. The sounds we hear, it's just vibration in the air. That doesn't limit, of course, our understanding or our way we make films, but in a sense, it gives art a name, as a matter of fact, to see the whole, to see beyond what the senses make us see. And I do believe cinema and cinematography is the art that can present this extra reality somehow more differently, because it can, although it's an art that is based on concrete reality. As a matter of fact, you shoot a house or a tree or something, yet there is a lot of poetry in that. If our audiovisual language can transcend the limitations of our vision and of our understanding. So I'm interested a lot in all the world cinema, Russian cinema, Asian cinema, all the different traditions. And I'm very much influenced, of course, by ancient Greeks, because of their, although I do understand the classical narration, I do understand that it has limitations, but there is a basis there, and the basis is just, or the aim is just, how do you say, to free ourselves from the burden of reality somehow, to give us a new idea of reality, if it exists. So yes, there's a multi-leveled interests that inform my way of thinking and understanding.
可怜的东西呢，我觉得是可以说是一个写点电影哈，而且我也注意到这个里头的那个音乐呀非常少，而且它音乐基本上是没有旋律的音乐，出现的还非常晚，我记得好像是第24分钟才出现。那我就觉得对于一个剪辑师来说，没有音乐或者是没有旋律的音乐的话，那等于是全部要靠画面，就是靠剪辑师这个纯画面来支撑。这对于一个剪辑师来说，他等于失去了一个拐棍，这是非常非常难的哈一个挑战。所以我就特别很好奇，就他怎么样用这个就是用什么方式在140分钟里头让观众持续保持这个观影的兴趣的。
What you say is true, but this world that you describe, this absurd reality and this combination of bizarre situations, it's the language of Mr. Lanthimos. This is how he wants his films to be. So he creates this strange environment all the time, challenging, as I said, the viewer all the time. So as an editor, I have to understand him. I have to know his aims, and help in a sense to present it from bottom up. Like, for example, he has this idea, and he's asking, okay, what if we do that? I have to find a way to make that understandable and also enjoyable for the viewer. Of course, the difficulty lies that we cannot use the continuity edit, how do you call it, when the viewer attaches himself to a hero and follows his fortune. It's not that way. It's more of it's more of the epic theater, Bertolt Brecht's idea of presenting the structure of the film. So we have to sometimes let the audience understand that this is a film and this is us talking about it, and we want a discourse with you. We're not representing you something. That to achieve that, I think we have to, because after all, we're all our basis is the same. We are humans before we become editors, or before we become directors, or before we are Chinese or Greeks or Americans. We are humans, and we are our basic experiences there, our basic experience of living, of the sorrow of death, of losing somebody. All these things connect us, and you can go directly to the subconscious and speak about these main things without burdening the viewer with the fate of a hero somehow. But now the means to do it, yes, it has to allow, for example, you mentioned music. It has to allow for the independence of music from the film, or the film not to be suppressed by the music. It's not the usual way. It's not the usual Hollywood style that supports the image and undermines the importance of the music. And in our Lanthimos' career, mainly on our films, for example, in Pineta, we didn't use any music at all, but the one played from a cassette player. For the first time in Poor Things, he heard Zerskin's album and he liked the music. And the strange thing is that he asked him to write the music, 8 months before shooting started, based on just the script. It's not like the music will describe what is happening on the picture. No, it has an independent idea of the music, and then in the edit, it's very useful to have the music before, because we never finish the film. Like, there is this European tradition that tells you do the edit and then we'll give the film to the musician, but that's not correct, I believe. It doesn't allow for the complete creation of the film between the director and the editor. So we do use the music as we like. We do have in mind that, the picture has to say something, and maybe the music maybe contradicts it, or maybe sometimes they go together. There is this playfulness all the time. And yes, it's I do believe is the best way, because in my mind, the film cannot finish from the editor if he doesn't put not only the music but the sound design as well, at least as an idea, because it is narratively advancing the film, the music, or it is a thing that you cannot leave, to somebody else to do it and present you with different ideas, because it will destroy the meaning of the film. And basically, this is how we still work. I mean, but then it doesn't come from the beginning, the music. We follow our procedure. We do the assembly. I do the edit completely without music. We have it, the first assembly is no music. It's the first cut. And then when we start this idea of, as I say, deconstructing or taking out scenes or rearranging the structure, then the music must come and be a creative partner to this situation.